We are very pleased to have three speakers today. So not too many speakers, but it means that we have time to discuss a little bit more. One speaker, Dr. G. Linus Dingle, she's working in Melbourne and she could not come, so she pre-recorded a video presentation. I would like to encourage you. She has an outline, so if you come closer, you can read what she writes on the screen. So what we're going to do is play the video first, and then I will invite Yasmin Kula, and if Rohingya wants to join us, to come and, explain what it's like as a Rohingya, to see what's going on, what is the context of this hate campaign which led to genocide. Our third speaker is Hafiz Nabiye, who's head of the Division for Freedom of Expression at SafeNet, the Southeast Asian Freedom of Expression Network, who is on the way from the airport. So we hope that Hafiz can reach us quickly and safely. So, welcome everybody. My name is Deborah Stefan. I'm the coordinator of ASEAN Gala. One thing, ASEAN Gala, Dr. G. Linus Dingle from Malaysia Foundation, Yasmin Kula from the Rohingya Myanmar Collaborative Network, and Hafiz Nabiye from SafeNet are all members of the ASEAN Coalition to #Stop Digital Dictatorship. And so we're really pleased that we're here in today. So I'm going to start by playing the video presentation of G. Linus Dingle. I'm sorry that there's no translation into Telugu, but I hope it will hear that.
Who did a PhD on the role of social media like Facebook and the Rohingya genocide. She was talking about the algorithms. All of you have social media, right? Do you have Facebook or Instagram? Facebook. Facebook? No? In Imo, what is it? Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter? Oh, yeah. So when you press something like, the algorithm will look for similar postings and it will come on your page and you will see it. So if someone says something against Rohingya or anti-Muslims and these people are bad, and you like it, then the algorithm will push more of this type of posting, and then you will start to feel that everybody hates them, and then we should do something against them. So when the military started to attack, burn down villages, kill and execute Rohingya, people said, oh yeah, good. They didn't oppose it. So this is how Facebook also gave the platform to the military and the ultra-nationalist racist groups that were promoting hate. So this is how Facebook, it was found that the Facebook algorithm, in order to make as much money as possible, so the algorithm is supposed to make more profit for Facebook. Because of that, it helped cause a genocide. So it's quite shocking. We thought hate speech is just talking, but it actually can lead to real life consequences. So I would like to invite Yasmin. I haven't seen Hafiz. I hope he's on the way from the airport to come and join us. Yasmin saw the unfolding genocide. She was lucky that she was not in Myanmar at the time, but every Rohingya has family who suffered directly from the violence and the displacement. So we would like to hear from Yasmin, who is the Executive Director of the Rohingya Myanmar Collaborative Network, to share her perspectives and some context about what happened and what has been done so far. Over to you, Yasmin.
Thank you so much, Nabi. I feel a little bit lonely, but I'm glad you're here because there's no other panelists. Usually we'd like to, share the opportunities as much as possible, but hopefully Hafiz is on his way. First and foremost, of course, good afternoon to all of you. Thank you so much for coming. I've handed out a lot of flyers this morning. I'm so glad to see all of your pictures. What has happened is something so inconceivable in a sense, because as a Rohingya, when I was growing up, and I think painting a picture of how it was like in ASEAN region and within Burma, Myanmar, I think is important for you to get the context. Within Burma, Myanmar, as my parents were growing up, of course they were going through, different phases of the hate speech and hate campaigns. And at that time, because electronic and digital access to device and internet has not been so popularized, and Burma was quite far behind in terms of technology at that time, in the 80s and 70s. They didn't have this level of impact or magnitude that we see today. But what already took place was a starting of something, and that starting point was already infused and ingrained in terms of ideology. There is a separation and segregation between groups of people, and of course that is, characterization of citizenship that has been put in place by the Myanmar military junta, and it basically denounces any other, ethnic identities and diversity to be the proper, citizenship, or to be a proper person that belongs to Burma, Myanmar. All of this is colonial and, rooted in a lot of racism, but it was already a starting point. And this starting point has divided many, many different communities that have previously lived alongside one another in peace. Now, within Arakan, there are two majority groups. There are many other ethnic groups that live in Arakan, but two main groups are Rohingya and Rakhine. And unfortunately, at that point in time, segregation started in schools. Started with, hate speech and calling Rohingya Bengali, or, my mom at some point would go to school and then somebody would call her Kalama. And that's a derogatory term to call a Muslim person or someone who's seemingly the other. And that's the kind of rhetoric that started. Now fast forward to the leading up to the 2011 and 12 violence. There were concerted efforts in creating a special narrative to target Rohingya. And this was not just by one institution. This is not just an effort that was clearly done or marked by the military, but it was marked by all aspects of society. It was civil society that participated in it. It was religious institutions that participated in it. It was also the public sector and private sector. We saw as the country opened up and Facebook became popularized as a messaging and as a platform for another sort of like third place where people gather online and speak about what they want to do, and this is a new thing in Burma at that time. What happened was it gained a lot of traction when someone or an influencer or some kind of lifestyle page talks about how there is this dark group of people who are so uncivilized and they occupy land that is not theirs, and they just came in the 70s and whatnot. All of these are rhetorics that were created and talked about in terms of, in relation to us as a Rohingya. People don't call us Rohingya, didn't call us Rohingya back in the days. They call us Bengali. So that already signifies that they don't believe we could have been rooted and belonged to Burma, belonged to Burma. And those narratives were perpetuated by, people from very, very high level officials, where they call, they say, oh, we don't have Rohingya in this country. What are you talking about? Even though their grandfathers or their forefathers were very much fighting and trying to liberate the country from the British colonial system alongside Rohingya. And that's the amnesia that we saw as soon as Facebook came in. And of course, as Dr. Gina has kindly mentioned, that these are profit-driven groups of people and institutions, they do not care about human rights. They care about their profit generation. Now, in 2011-12, there were many rumors, many sort of hate speech that were perpetuated, especially in creating and crafting and framing an image of Rohingya in a certain way. And some of those things are actually quite alarming, but they were just the beginning of so many more things that followed suit. Now, there was also a Mabata, which is Mabata movement, and this was racist monks, Buddhist monks, who basically started preaching and saying Rohingya are vermin, we are cockroach, we are worms, we're dogs, kill them wherever you see them, and then calling us terrorists, which is very ironic. But this is the reality, and their preachings or their messages were widely shared throughout all of these years. And within 2011 and 12, there were many rumors about Rohingya. I think a specific one was 2 Rohingya men raping a Rakhine woman. And that rumor was never really substantiated because at that point, Rakhine State or Arakan has been closed off from the rest of the country. Even though it was digitally accessible for people to talk to, Rakhine and Rohingya, that area was still quite remote, so people didn't have equal access to digital device. So because the area is so closed off, it felt far away. People just started to make assumptions of different things. And it was a distraction, a very, very good distraction away from the deep sea port that was being built at that time, called Jokpyu Deep Sea Port, that is now currently a Chinese-owned port, which has created a lot of ecological disaster and basically became a starting point or exacerbated this dispossession and exploitation of indigenous groups and many natural resources that we have that local people do not have access to because it was sold off to foreign companies. Now, fast forward to right before I fast forward, there was also another side of this where because these hate campaigns became so successful and people got carried away and got caught up in it so much, in terms of building this into a national narrative, it became ingrained in the consciousness that Rohingya are the other. At the same time, the military junta has marched on, and they started to actually collect machetes and collect knives, create opportunities for them to terrorize Rohingya. So the entire area of Sittwe, where Rohingya were populated in, completely destroyed, burned down to the ground, women were raped, tortures happened, killings of many Rohingya, which has resulted in a long-term effect, one of them, which is 140,000 Rohingya to this day, since 2011 and 12, were actually forced into internally displaced camps. We call it an open-air prison or an apartheid-like prison because it actually acts as a barrier for Rohingya to be able to access any social services, any hospitalization, any access to school or food.
And the students who are in university were taken out of university and put in camp. So there was a very famous IDP camp where next to the university, and the students from that university were Rohingya were stuck in the camp, and you could see everybody going to school, but they could not go to class again. So this is the kind of, and for people who were in the camp, if they need to see a doctor, they have to apply for permission to go to the hospital, and sometimes it can take 5 days to get the permission to go out of the camp to go to the hospital.
So this is like a test project. The military used this as a testing run, and it was successful. Nobody actually flinched. The international community, all quiet. Yeah, maybe some statement here and there, but nobody really, run and get into action. What happened was these people were dealing with starvation issues. lack of access to education, healthcare, and various others. And if they make an attempt to flee, they're automatically slapped with 2 years prison sentence, no trial. And this is the reality of Rohingya life in general. Now fast forward to 2016 and 17, raids were continuing to become more and more frequent, and raids usually happen at night. So the military junta would come in and try to actually, strike fear into people and ensure that, people actually feel like they can't fight back. While all of this was happening, there were talks at the ASEAN level that they would do something, commission of inquiry. There was like a Rakhine commission, but nothing substantive really came out of it, especially in protection of Rohingya. So Rohingya have been, at that point, driven further and further into the edge of the society, and it's been ignored because the country was trying to democratize, and we became this little wedge that's left. And finally, in 2017, after the military decided, there is the time has come, to that 25th of August, they basically prior to that, collected all the machetes, make sure that no one can fight back. They came and surrounded the village and committed one of the most heinous genocidal attacks and mass atrocity that we've heard in Burma. And what happened as a result is that people were having to flee en masse. 840,000 Rohingya now have lived in the refugee camps because they fled from Burma, Myanmar to Bangladesh en masse for the past 7 years. And less of them have access to food, education, healthcare, and proper quality of life. So much less than what they would have had access to in Burma, Myanmar, had they lived in repression. Now, inside Burma, Myanmar, in Arakan, because of this newly instigated, second wave of genocide that is committed by both the junta and the Arakan army, unfortunately, we need to start thinking about, armed groups' impunity as well, and accountability of armed groups. These two groups have vested interest in expelling Rohingya to further dispossess the land and sell it off to generate profit. So our lives have been caught up in this vicious cycle of hate speech, leading up to real-life violence, leading up to further inaction from the international community, leading to other causes and other aspects of hate speech that become recurrent in the entire region. Not only has the ASEAN, especially Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia, have to become a place of refuge for Rohingya, but also it has become a home to all of these aspects of hate speech. Whatever the military has said about Rohingya, or a bad actress has said about Rohingya in Burma, Myanmar, is being regurgitated today in Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. They are dark, they're too lazy, they have too many kids, they are uncivilized, they need to be deported back. It's good the military killed them because they're like this, that. And so all of this became a mechanism it became a tool to further the genocide. And it also became a tool because I actually, and this will be the last thing that I'm sorry, I had the opportunity to talk to one of the MP from Malaysia. And just as a context, Malaysia currently has 1,500 Rohingya children held in indefinite detention. These children don't belong in prison in the first place. Children have nowhere to be, near the prison. But these children have been held for many years, and no UNHCR or any other aid organization was allowed to go and visit. So no one is checking on them whether or not they're alive or dead, or are they being tortured, are they actually getting enough food. And immigration police is actually running these facilities, and they're hoping to open more. When I had the opportunity to talk to this MP from the ruling party, I asked him why are we still keeping kids in cages, literally. And he said, I need to respond to my constituency. I need to actually work along the lines of what my constituency wants. And basically, he asked me, if we can, we will deport Rohingya tomorrow. All 200,000 of them that live in Malaysia. And I said, what about, protection of victims and, accountability mechanism that we're pursuing internationally? He's like, well, we just have to trust the process. This is the lack of care, the level of justification that it has reached when we ignore all of the levels of development in terms of hate speech against Rohingya. It didn't just instigate genocide, it also continues it. It also creates this justification for non-interference to become a sickness and disorder, a disease that is rampant within our region, that we can no longer interfere when it's someone's life that's at risk. And at the same time, it also creates opportunity for, pencil pushers and people in power to actually do nothing and stand by when our lives are being affected. Because trust me, when the Rohingya, bloodline ends, it will come to other groups that will be marginalized too. As Noor said this morning, it's no liberation for all of us if there's no Rohingya inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yasmin. I think when we go back to hate speech, I think the older generation in Timor will remember how the Indonesian government tried to talk about Timor people as less than Indonesian, that Indonesia will upgrade the Timor people and this kind of thing. And you can already see that every repressive government uses hate speech to justify repression of another group. In this case, social media has a role in either doing something positive or negative, but it depends on what profit they can get. So in Malaysia, there is a ustaz, a Muslim teacher, who uses TikTok to say really bad things against Rohingya, and he behaves like a hero, go and bang the door of the houses where he thinks Rohingya are staying. Because of that, because he's popular on TikTok, the politicians start to listen to him and say, our voters want this. And they are talking about possibly, come. They're talking about possibly deporting Rohingya back to the military junta, which is killing civilians in Myanmar. At this time, you remember in 2012 they forced the Rohingya to stay in IDP camps in Arakan state. Now the military junta is taking the young men and forcing them to become the military, to fight for them. And the Arakan army on the other side is taking Rohingya young men in their territory and forcing them to fight also. So young Rohingya are being forced to fight on both sides. And when they were forced to fight, then people say, see, the Rohingya are bad, they are not loyal to us, they are traitors. When they have no choice, because they are prisoners. So this wave of hate is happening again. And also, what is your view of who benefits from this type of hate speech and violence? And you need a drink, you need to come down with? Okay. Yeah, because you're young, so you can start talking immediately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. First of all, I would like to apologize for everyone here for coming late, especially for Debbie and also Yasmin, because I've delayed for 30 minutes, so yeah, I can late. So maybe I don't want to rephrase what has been told before by the previous speaker, Debbie, but in Indonesia, yeah. Last year, since November 2023 until February 2024, during our election campaign, we also see that a lot of hate speech, information, as well as well as disinformation targeting Rohingya spread across social media platforms in Indonesia. Even there are a lot of narratives there crafted to dehumanize the Rohingya refugees in Indonesia, like by saying that they are forced to be Indonesian citizen, or they ask for an island in Indonesia, or they are not a true Muslim, and a lot of narrative crafted to dehumanize these Rohingya refugees. This actually is not usual because previously during 2015 or 2014 and 2017, the Rohingya issue also arise in Indonesia and become a lot of public conversation. But during that time, actually the sentiment of the people is positive because they see Rohingya refugees as Muslim brother, Muslim sister, as people who got oppressed. But it changed 180 degree during last year because a lot of things. Yeah. Jen told before that there are contribution of Facebook algorithm. In Indonesia, actually, one media, investigative media called ASEAN, they also doing investigation on this hate speech against Rohingya issue. So they found that there are also a lot of indication that the spread of hate speech against Rohingya in Indonesia is also part of influence operation by certain parties. There are a lot of indication that they found during their research and investigation, like by actually I will stop with it. But there are a lot of indication. The first one is the majority of the comments on UNHCR official page on Instagram, which is containing 90% of hate speech, is it is delivered by non-followers of the UNHCR. So this account is non-follower, but they are very actively commenting on UNHCR posts. And the second one is about the timing, because most of the comments is spread during the first day of the post. Like on the first day of the post, there will come thousands of comments, but during the next day, on the second day, or the third day, or the fourth day, and so on and so forth, it decreased very significantly. Like only maybe dozen comments or dozen speech. So it's almost in 3 most popular posts of the UNHCR Indonesia that containing hate speech. Most of them are delivered on the first day, where on the second day or the third day, it's decreased significantly. And also about the timing, because they also found that this hate speech sometimes also, most of it is also delivered on 12 a.m. until 3 a.m., which is not rational, right? Because it's time for most of human sleep at the moment. But most of them coming for the time. And also they also see the numbers of the comment, which is very a lot of comment coming in 8 hours per day, like from 9 a.m. until 5 a.m. or something like that. But then got decreased after that. So they also found that this pattern is similar like our working hours. Like there are potential that they were hiring or cooperate with some agency or something like that who provide the service to shape public opinion. And other findings also, and the next question is who benefited from this? Yeah, so based from narracy research, they also found that the hate speech become to the peak during one of the presidential candidates, which is Prabowo Subianto, coming to Aceh to do his presidential campaign. Right? Like on 26th of December, the peak of the hate speech become to the peak to the top, and then Prabowo during his visit to Aceh made a statement, made a clear ultra-nationalist statement, and stated we should, like prioritize our national interest, our local people instead of those refugees. With this, then this statement by Prabowo has been amplified by the media and his brothers, because a lot of brothers, that not brothers but influencers, that also promote this hate speech against Rohingya, both micro-influencers, which is categorized as those who have 1,000 until 100,000 followers, or macro-influencer who has more than 100,000 followers, who spread this hate speech, also part of Prabowo, like Prabowo team. So not official team, but they also promoted Prabowo during the presidential election. So we can see that although there is no, no clear declaration from Prabowo that he support, let's say, forced eviction to the Rohingya refugees, or clearly stated that he against the coming of Rohingya refugees, but we can see that there's also some electoral benefit for Prabowo by by using these issues on his campaign commodity.
Thank you, Alvin. So we could see, I think during the Indonesia country report this morning, our colleague from Indonesia denounced the new president who will be installed, sworn in next month, because he was also in charge of the Santa Cruz massacre, where many young people were murdered at the Santa Cruz cemetery, including one of my close friends, Kamal Ramadaj from Malaysia. So for us, Santa Cruz massacre is also a terrible event in the history of Timor-Leste. And now we also saw Prabowo was benefiting from hate speech to get support from Acehnese votes, get more votes in Aceh. So we could see this pattern happening again and again, where the Rohingya who face genocide in Myanmar are also facing the same restriction. Can't go to school, cannot get safety, cannot get shelter, cannot get health, cannot get education, and are still treated as criminal because of this hate speech. Given that there is the evidence, very clear evidence, that Facebook actually helped promote hate speech and violence, which led to the genocide, what has been done?
Yes. Thank you. There are quite a few international mechanisms that are in place. Not necessarily that they're working, but they're in place. There was a case that was launched against Facebook in the US. And Noor Hayati Ali will be able to tell you guys as well, because Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where she currently lives now, is actually a hotspot for a lot of the victims that have resettled to the US after 2017. And this case was launched in collaboration with the Rohingya community, with the victims' testimonies and whatnot, and it was launched in, I think it was Washington, D.C. court, not entirely. It was, I think, about 2 years ago that the case was launched into the court. It's still proceeding, and a lot of it has to do with accusing Facebook for being, or for instigating the violence or failure to protect Rohingya from hate speech. And because they have due diligence process, which they completely is forgone, so all that this is basically a ground for Rohingya to actually launch a case against them in the US, because the US is basically where the Facebook headquarters, or Meta now, is located. And it's one way that the victims are trying to reclaim their agency and showcase that they're not letting go of, the crimes that took place against them.
It's for $25 million.
Probably around something 20 to 30 million, but there are a lot of people that are actually on there, maybe around, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a long time, about 200 or 400 victims. So it's a class action lawsuit against Facebook.
And if you remember from the video, Dr. Jean said the companies care about their profit. They care about money. So this is why the group of Rohingya, or 20 or 40 Rohingya, decided to sue for $25 million so that Facebook, Meta, feels the real pain. If not, and even if this case drags on, Meta will have to spend millions of dollars on corporate lawyers. So it is trying to force these companies to take their responsibility seriously. Hafiz, what other solutions do you recommend?
Yeah, I think in addition to the discussion about Meta role in this Rohingya genocide, in terms of Indonesia, the most, a platform that contributed the most to the spread of hate speech and misinformation, I think it's TikTok. Because this information is first drafted in TikTok, and then spread in TikTok, and then amplified by other social media, including Facebook, Instagram, and etc. Even during our monitoring in TikTok, we also found that a lot of impersonation of UNHCR account in Indonesia, like they using UNHCR logo as their profile picture, they using UNHCR Indonesia name, blah blah blah, as their username on TikTok. Even one account that we found has followers 5 times that the original account of the UNHCR Indonesia. Like the official account of UNHCR Indonesia on TikTok only has 20k followers, but this impersonation account, this fake account, who also spread his speech actively, has more than 100,000 followers. So this account has been, TikTok has been let this account always operated since maybe November, since the first SB is coming, to February, but now it's already disappeared. Right? We don't know whether it is closed by TikTok or blocked by TikTok, or whether the owner of the account, voluntarily deleted his account. Right? So I think this TikTok, we also need to assess TikTok in terms of their due diligence of human rights assessment, because Indonesia it's very good, because they let this disinformation spread on their platform. Even when I talked with UNHCR officer in Indonesia, they already tried to engage to talk with TikTok officer, but TikTok officers still, do not take appropriate action of their complaints, although it's UNHCR Indonesia officer who make the complaint with it. So, and then the UNHCR Indonesia officer told me that finally he can, he got appropriate action by TikTok after he talked to the Asia Pacific representative, so not with the Indonesian representative. So I think this TikTok problem is we also need to assess. Yeah, even if possible, we also can try to sue them by create class action or something like that because of their contribution to the to the hate speech spread that led to real world violence.
So TikTok is the next social media we have to target, because so much hate speech is going on in TikTok. Before I invite somebody else, you want to say something?
In connection to what Hafiz has just said, I want to emphasize as well that a lot of this have gendered element, and how I know this is because when the military junta, perpetuate all these hate speech, hate campaigns, misinformation in Burma, Myanmar, it was targeted at women as well. It says Rohingya women are just good at just making babies. They're not doing anything else. They're lazy, completely dismissing Rohingya women's agency. When the court case was launched at the World Court at the ICJ, and unfortunately, at that time, the head of the civilian government went to actually represent the country as the state of Myanmar versus the Gambia that brought the case of the suspicion of genocide to the ICJ, to the International Court of Justice. Her remarks in response to a journalist asking her, "Oh, you are a woman, you understand what it's like to actually be violated. And what do you say about the sexual and gender-based violence that the Rohingya women are alleged happened to them?" And she responded, "Oh, fake rape." And that was very broadly, displayed inside of the court, and it's part of why we were provided provisional measure response or ruling by the court. Now, this gendered aspect later on also play out in the Indonesian case, where hate speech against Rohingya has created created the cycle of violence against women, where Rohingya women were violated on the boats by Indonesian captains because they don't see Rohingya women as humans anymore. And I talked about this in the CRSD workshop yesterday, where 5 Rohingya women that we are currently supporting right now have been impregnated by this Indonesian captain because he just thought that he could do anything. And these hate speech go directly linked and supported all these kinds of violence that take place against Rohingya women. On another note though, with the UNHCR being attacked en masse like that, what happens is it actually disrupts our advocacy in the country. Now RMCN is trying to actually get more and more support for the Rohingya refugees in the region, because where are we going to send them? Only 1% of the refugees get resettled everywhere else. And keeping them in this region, meaning that they're closer to home and they're able to go home when the country is free. But then UNHCR came back and told us, we can't do anything, or any other groups that would otherwise help now has stopped working with us because they don't want to actually get caught in the hate campaign.
So this is a really terrible spiral. And thank you, Yasmin, for sharing this and Hafiz. I also would like to invite Elia Da Costa from the Association of Information and Technology Progressive Timor-Leste, who is also co-founder of the women movement Red Rose. The association is a co-organizer of this session, and we hope that Elia can come and sit with us, please. Come. And respond as a reactor to what she has heard from this presentation, her reaction, and also maybe any recommendation or what actions can be done.
Thank you, Mana Devi. As Mana Devi has said, I am Elia Da Costa from Association of Information and Technology Progressive Timor-Leste, as a co-founder of movement of Red Rose, the women movement. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for the speaker to sharing, especially Yasmin, Devi, to share about Burma, Rohingya. And I have heard it like clearly yesterday with you. Thank you for sharing also about the child, what child and women are faced in this case. Actually, would like to update about the hate speech. In Timor-Leste, we also face the same thing, but it does not bring us to the genocide. It happened when the political campaign and also we still have our history with Indonesia before. Like when we start got independence, we have two options to choose Indonesia or Timor-Leste. Some of the people who choose Indonesia and now they live in Cuba, yeah, West Timor. Now we have a good relationship with Indonesia, but the people who choose to choose Indonesia, they come back and visit their family, but they still have God hate speech. Like your parents who choose Indonesia, so you are not part of Timorese, you are not count here and so on. But it's happened, but in general in social media, we also see like most of people, they react like they welcome them, but only some of them didn't welcome them to Timor-Leste. And based on the history that you was shared about Rohingya, I was here also Yasmin speech yesterday, which is you say that as Asian nation we are failed because we just let people that part of Asia face this situation alone. Like now we see Yasmin here, Debbie here, but based on the news that we got, like we didn't see the realities like now that was. Like this the news just come like for like for some time, and then we saw another news that didn't in media social didn't show up many things about what happened in Rohingya. That's what we see in social media. And the second thing, based on Yasmin's statement about the Asia, after I got back last night, I was thinking about the, Yasmin had mentioned about as Asian nation we are failed. I was thinking that do we still believe on the value that Asia have to protect the people, the member of Asia? Do we as an Asian people, we still care that if we are not a member of Asia, if, for example, we are not a member of Asia, but we still think that there is a people who face genocide, do we still care about it, like the act of human being, we still have it or not? Based on Rohingya issue, I can say that most of us is now lack of how to say it, lack of care of each other. If we can say like, oh, the news is not come up to us, but I can say also like the media social also made us more individuals, which is we don't care about other people struggle, other people life. It's not happened now, but before the COVID also it happened. Most of analyze, most of article write down that after the COVID bring people to more individual, and it's so. It's so when we see the Rohingya case. Now, what the solution that we think about how to against the hate speech that happened to Rohingya? First of all, our first speaker said that we can't control the Facebook or the platform because the orientation of money, which content that give them much money. But we have the power to continue campaign that their algorithm about pulls up the issue about genocide is not act of human being. And the second, do we have power to talk about it? Do we have power to talk about it? If we answer that we not have power, why we didn't have power? The answer is because we are not united. We are talking about campaign to people who get genocide in Rohingya. I was thinking about what model that we got to us in the same perception that okay, we should campaign this on media social about Rohingya. Sometimes we just come up with different information. And that's what I see. And the second thing, my question is, did civil society have power to oppress the government, to say, hey, we are as a member of Asia, please see what happened in Rohingya? I think, in my opinion, the civil society nowadays also, they still face challenges. Like they still, I can say like lack of power to influence the government to see what happened in Rohingya. And what we can do, I think tomorrow we will have a discussion, a clear discussion about it and what we can do next. And the second is, to movement who war from Rohingya have campaign or advocate to every civil society in different countries to say that, hey, we have this campaign for 3 or 4 months coming about Rohingya. We would like to join it and blah blah blah. Will you guys do it? If you guys do it, I'm happy to hear from you. But about Association of Information and Technology Progressive Position for East of Rohingya, I just discussed with my colleagues here, 3 of us, Fernando, January. We have discussed about it before the session. I can say to Debbie and Yasmin and all friends, yeah, those who work with campaign about Rohingya issue, we have commitment to campaigning. So please keep in touch with us and think what we should do for next about it. And the second, the movement of Red Cross also we have discussed about it, and we are happy to work with Yasmin and team to make a campaign also about the women and children who lost their life in war, and what we talk about this issue for war. And I just want to say that you have one of the comrades, Kiasin, the girl who died in 2021 in Myanmar when the revolution to the Kiasin. Yeah, everything will be okay, and yeah, Red Cross movement write also article about it, made solidarity to people in Myanmar. And the last one I want to say that Kielsin died 5 days before the International Women's Day, in 3 March 2021. And also in the 5 March, one of the radical leader of women, Rosa Luxemburg, also died. You can say like 200 years of his died, and then we got Kelsey also died at the moment. We can say that the revolution still continue, the struggle still continue, don't lose hope. We believe one day, if we are united to campaign about what happened in Rohingya, we believe that the Rohingya people will win, the people who did the things that happened in Rohingya, and we are waiting to do more work about Rohingya for next period coming with all of you. And I was from SafeNet. We'll share each other. We'll meet also your friend for next Damar for next Monday and Tuesday in the training. So we'll keep contact and think if we can have more discussion about it, about what we should do next. We'll love to think that's all. Thank you.
Have any questions? Yeah, Sejan. We only have one mic.
Have you tried to organize a protest on the same day to burn the country's flag in as many countries as possible, and to start a campaign to boycott that country? Nobody should go there, don't buy anything that is in the country, don't do business in the country. And I think if you have you tried doing that?
Okay, so there has been a global campaign to stop revenue to the military junta in Burma and the companies that they control now. So Myanmar Oil and Gas Enterprise is now under the control of the military junta, and EU and US have imposed sanctions on them. We also campaign for sanction or embargo to ban supply of aviation fuel, jet fuel, because until October last year, well, after that Netanyahu started bombing Palestine, but before Netanyahu started bombing Palestine, Myanmar had the highest number of airstrikes against civilians in the world, even more than Ukraine or Syria. So they were using airstrike to bomb IDP camps, schools, hospitals, churches, mosques, monasteries, places of worship, and so there was a campaign to stop jet fuel. Some countries have already made sanctions, but the military junta can still get jet fuel because a Vietnamese company is transporting the fuel from there, from Singapore to Vietnam to Myanmar. So this is the big problem in ASEAN. ASEAN banks are holding the money and helping the junta channel money to buy more weapons. The UN Special Rapporteur on Myanmar exposed Singapore banks last year. So the Singapore called him, and when he showed the evidence, they had to freeze some of those accounts. Earlier this year, about 2 months ago, the Special Rapporteur made a report on Siam Commercial Bank for being the money launderer for the military junta in Thailand. So the Myanmar junta. So there was a parliamentary inquiry, and they're trying to. The bank said they didn't know that they were holding billions of dollars for the military junta, and that was being used by weapons. So now they are trying to lock that up. In the beginning of the coup, civil society campaigned to World Bank, Asian Development Bank, and IMF not to send money to the military junta in public loans, and about $13 billion, which was 20% of GDP, was stopped. So people, actually, the sanction campaign is making a difference, making an impact, but some of the ASEAN companies are helping the junta. So our biggest problem is ASEAN and China and Russia. So this is something to be aware of. But the military is losing. They only have stable control of 20% of the territory in Myanmar. Half of the country is already under resistance control, and in those places, people are making their own local administration. And then another 30% is being fought over. They're fighting for control of that. So we already see ASEAN is actually supporting the losing side. The military junta only holds Yangon, really, and Naypyidaw. Even Naypyidaw got drone attack from the resistance. So this is the thing. The junta is losing, but ASEAN is still giving them support. And this is our biggest frustration. For the campaign on Rohingya, we are so lucky, that's why I was very happy. This year, for the first time in ASEAN People Forum history, the Myanmar National Organizing Committee have Rohingya as members. This is a very good sign. Yeah? And it's really great to see that friends from Timor understand and support the cause. Firstly, we would like to ask you, we have many newsletters. ALTSEAN, ALTSEAN.org, we have a monthly coup watch,
which give an overview of 1 month developments in the country. You can take that and you can translate which part you like into cartoon and distribute. We have a campaign. I stand with Rohingya. So please join this campaign, take selfie, use the hashtag. If you want to keep some of this in Dili, please keep it and use it also. So please join the campaign. Anybody else have any question before we wrap up?
So I would like to have one question about the unity of the Myanmar, because I watch the news and whatever YouTube. There are many resistant individual resistant. How they could make unity together?
If they did not unite together, the junta would be winning. There are many different armed and political groups, because traditionally the military in the country for more than 60, 70 years have been doing divide and rule policy. So now most of the groups, they are organizing and coordinating with each other. And that's how they are winning against the military junta. There's also a political body called the NUCC, the National Unity Coordinating Council, Consultative Council. And they are a big umbrella political body with many participants, many organizations negotiating and discussing about the political agreement to make a federal system. There's also Rohingya in the NUCC. For many young people and women, this is also the space they go inside to try and influence politically.
After that, I'm really sorry for you and your people. What come up to my mind, is there any action or effort from the ASEAN committee, like to do the diplomacy approach with the stakeholders in Myanmar to stop the genocide or torture? And also, is that like these cases bring to the ICC? If yes, what is the result?
The case is already being discussed and investigated. I think the process right now is that Green Fund, the prosecutor, has begun the investigation. The only issue that they have left right now, they've actually interviewed as many victims as they can in the camps. And what Green Fund told our team was that we don't want to actually continue to talk to the victims until they can actually get a real concrete action. And because people are in humanitarian limbo right now in the camps, we're trying our very best in terms of creating and supporting and filling the gaps in humanitarian aid. But we're a very small organization. Many others are trying. But what we hope for is actually to push for ASEAN to also take responsibility. Money is spent and supported in terms of the military junta, but money has never been spent on the refugees, or access to education is not open for refugee children. And this hate speech has stopped those efforts. We were not able to actually get our children to go to school, even though, under the Convention of Child Rights, that's supposed to be the case. Now, with the ICC, the prosecutor said if there is no defectors, soldiers that they can actually use to testify and collect evidence from, it's going to be hard to prove that a genocide takes place. And it's not even a case of genocide that's at the ICC right now, because ICC does not have jurisdiction over Burma, Myanmar, but it has jurisdiction over Bangladesh, and so the case is forced deportation. And so it kind of lessened the flow of what the perpetrators would be faced with. But at the very least, we're happy that there's something going on, that the international community is not dismissing this entirely. We also have, a concerted effort among ourselves to actually connect and reconnect with our brothers and sisters from Burma, Myanmar. And APF, being part of this year's forum, as well as partaking in the Myanmar National Organizing Committee, was also one part of our work to resist, but also to actually reconnect ourselves with the rest of Burma, Myanmar. There are many other efforts that you can actually follow us, and there are also concerted effort from the ASEAN Coalition Against Digital Dictatorship that we are currently investigating the kind of hate speech and disinformation and misinformation campaign to figure out who's actually behind this and present this to stakeholders in ASEAN and beyond in order to curb any further, violations or violence that can take place from this.
So one of the ways we can try to change the algorithm is post more I stand with Rohingya, so the algorithm will pay more attention to this instead of the hate speech. So that's one thing.
The oldest is actually since 2017. This hashtag was not active. It was most active in 2017. So if you're actually going to tweet or post about any of this, it would actually help us boost the hashtag. And there are three main legal actions at the moment globally for Rohingya. One is the ICC opened an investigation in 2019 on the crime of forced deportation to Bangladesh. The Gambia, a small country in Africa, sued Myanmar in the International Court of Justice for violating the Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of Genocide. And in 2019 also, it was a bad year for the military. The Rohingya civil society group made a universal jurisdiction case for the Rohingya genocide in Argentina. So more groups are trying to use the international legal mechanism to get justice, but also to highlight what is going on. We need all of you working together to make this hashtag a reality. I'm going to wrap up here because it's already 3 p.m. and the next round of workshops are going to take place at 3:30, and you have a human right to it. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for